Hi everyone, welcome to Dyslexic Design Thinking, the bigger picture with amazing dyslexics. I'm your host, Gil Gershoni. Today's episode is all about education and how we can increase confidence among dyslexic children. Enjoy. Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to see you both. How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm looking forward to having a great conversation today.
Beautiful. Marcia, would you then start and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what is dyslexia in one word or a sentence means to you?
It means creativity. It means thinking outside the box. So that's what it means to me, the short words. So my name's Marcia. I'm dyslexic and I work within special education, supporting parents and young people to empower them to find their voice and to help them, to support them around the law within education. So everything to do with education, from tribunals to reviews, EHC plans. I have found my sort of passion and purpose to help others who need support really and need to find their voice and get empowered to be able to speak and advocate for themselves. So that's where I am now, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about the journeys and how I got here really. So I'm just passionate about dyslexia and talking about it. So thank you for having me guys today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're so honored to have you, and can't wait to hear more about what you're doing to help change the trajectory of education for children and family all around. Qona, nice to see you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to see you, and I'm really excited to be here. So I'm Qona. I do several things. I'm the dyslexia coordinator at the Royal College of Art, where I help and provide advice to our dyslexic and dyspraxic students and staff. I raise awareness within staff groups about the issues affecting these students, and I advise staff on best practice for students with dyslexia and dyspraxia. I'm involved in research, which I think I'm going to talk about a bit in a minute, looking at drawing from observation and dyslexia and dyspraxia. I also design and make jewellery. I've got a small workshop at home and I work to commission in silver and gold. And back in 2008, I started a very small charity, which I continue to run, called the Creative Mentors Foundation, which aims to provide school students with learning differences additional mentorship, which will enable them to make the most of the educational opportunities at school and fulfill their learning potential, bolster their self-esteem and build their confidence. And one word that I would use to describe dyslexia is confusing.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. It definitely can be, for sure. Although all the amazing work you guys are doing definitely helps us to find some more orientation and hopefully be a little bit more balanced within our confusion and seeing so many things, seeing the big picture all at once. One of the things that I always find interesting is when you're young, when you're a child, and you see how successful and what the things we're doing. How do we get here? What would surprise your younger self, seeing where you are today? And I know you both are dyslexia, so Marcia, what would be surprising to your younger self if she saw yourself today?
Okay, so I remember my grandma always saying to me, you got to work twice as hard. So you got to work twice as hard. And I was like, what is she talking about? Didn't quite get it. And through my journey, that has helped me. That's always kept in the back of my mind. And I think for me, it's that I found my voice. Growing up, you know, the time I grew up, you know, children were seen and not heard kind of thing. You didn't talk about things. You just do things. You just kind of go along, and you know, you do have thoughts, but those discussions are not necessarily nurtured to talk about and express what's happening to you. So I think for me, it's finding my voice, being here. You know, those limiting beliefs and sort of imposter syndromes. I wouldn't be doing this. I would be like, I can't do this. So, you know, I've learned to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's kind of been my motto deep down. So I think for my younger self, it'll be, wow, you've really done it, girl. You've really put yourself in a place that you're not silent anymore. You're not crumbling inside, feeling different. You're finding your voice and you're talking out. And that's the only way. That's the only way I found that I can find inner growth and strength is by talking. And
because didn't you it all sort of the starting point was when someone's teacher said something very negative to your mum and it really fired you up?
Yeah, they said I wasn't going to make it. I wasn't I was slow and I wasn't going to make it. I was sitting there, and I think it was like a transition before I went to secondary school. And they just said to my parents, I'm going to make it. And I just thought, no, that's not me. What do you mean I'm not going to make it? That was all in my head, because it did a lot of in my head space. So those conversations was happening. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. So I just continued to be consistent, persevere. I taught myself to read. I just kept on going, keep pushing. And that, as I said to you at the beginning, my grandmother said you have to work twice as hard. There's various reasons why that was, but for me, I interpret that as just keep going, working hard, doing this, doing that, and staying up late at nights to try to perfect my handwriting with my pencil, because I loved writing in pencil, because then if I made a mistake, I could rub it out. There was so many strategies and things I kept going with. So yeah, I don't know if I'm speaking too much, because I do like to speak.
Not at all. This is so good.
Yeah.
Marcia, I have a pencil too. I'm dyslexic and I hate making mistakes, so a pencil is my best friend.
Yeah, I still have them around. I mean, I have pens, but I do like a pencil. There's something about that feel and that flow that comes through from my brain into my hands and onto the paper. It's just a nice feeling. Maybe it's a sensory feeling, but I really like that feeling. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So for my younger self, it's just the finding my voice. I think I can't believe that I've come this far. I've pushed myself 3 degrees. I don't know how I've done it, but every time I've said to myself, oh, I don't know, and support. I think it's important about the support you have, the support mechanism. So I'm grateful for those people who have been around me and encouraged me when you don't want to ask, when you don't feel you don't want to, those fears to say, can you help me? It's hard, and it can have that traumatic thing that you don't want to ask people. You just keep trying to do it yourself, and sometimes you do need some help. And I think that's why I've gone into the area I've gone into, because it's about empowering and finding people's voices and that kind of development. And so, I'm a qualified careers advisor, and I think that's one of the key things. What led me to that role is to be able to empower, inspire, and help people to find their full potential, because it wasn't happening for me. I had to do it on my own. And as much as some of that stuff is being good, those negatives has made me have positives in myself. It can be a lonely and isolating journey.
Yeah.
So, it really can.
Yeah, and I
think a lot of us can relate. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of us can relate to your story. I can personally. It's had some very similar experiences where some of the teachers at the time just didn't understand dyslexia, didn't understand what was going on, and really thought that it was a laziness and maybe not being as smart as the rest of the class. But having parents and having people that can see your potential and giving you that sort of support, and then igniting the fire of the amazing drive you have, and I think a lot of dyslexia have it, that we just learn and to overcome and to have this I say, tell me I can't do it and I'm going to get it done. It's usually that's the kind of catalyst to make the change. So I can really relate to your story very much, and that's beautiful. Qona, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Add to that, the last bit. I think why I say the voice, but for me, it has the traumatic experience I had in education. Made me decide to selective mute. I only spoke if I had to. And the mere thing is that I didn't want to read aloud. I mean, that's major. So if I didn't speak, I would be invisible. I mean, that's crazy thinking, but that's what I thought. So I didn't speak, and it went down all sorts of areas and avenues, what they thought what was going on for me. But the mere fact is that was really kind of powerful, that I remember not speaking so I can be invisible. And then if I didn't, because that's where the trauma started, the asking to read, the sweaty hands, the palpitations, the anxiety, those social emotions I was already developing at primary school. And that's just not right. That's not right. So that's why I'm here talking, to hopefully make a difference to somebody else and share my story. And I'll stop talking again.
Well, from not having a voice to having such an immense voice, obviously that contrast served you really well and brought that power to the forefront. Qona, what's some of your early memories? What's some of your thoughts?
Well, I think my younger self would be amazed to see that somebody actually pays me to do something that I really love doing. I never really thought I would get a proper job, I don't think. I could never imagine being employed by anyone. what would I do? And I think from sort of going from being a lecturer on a product design degree course, and then retraining as a dyslexia tutor and a dyslexia coordinator, I think my younger self would be completely amazed. And also by the fact that I've co-written a book as well. I think they'd be pretty amazed by that too.
Amazing. Your book is coming out, I believe, next month, is it?
It is coming out in February, the 18th.
In February.
The 18th.
Beautiful.
Tell us about it.
What is it about? Tell us about it.
Okay, so it's called Observational Drawing for Students with Dyslexia, Strategies, Tips and Inspiration. Rolls off the tongue. And I co-wrote it with a colleague and now good friend of mine called Howard Riley. And the inspiration for it really came from some of my students and formed the basis of the research that I've been engaged in for the last 12 years. So what happened was that some of the students told me that as well as their difficulty and slower than average ability to process words, both deciphering and recalling words, their tendency to get distracted, their confusion with numbers and their verbal retrieval speeds, they also felt that a lack of ability to draw accurately from observation had always been a difficulty. And they identified drawing as an area that held them back, and even commented that people said they weren't good at drawing, finding it hard to draw neatly or conventionally, and they felt at a professional disadvantage. So I got together with a colleague from Swansea, Howard, who'd had similar observations, and together we formed a very small research group with 3 other academics, Nikki Brunswick from Middlesex, Chris McManus from UCL, and Becky Chamberlain from Goldsmiths. And we began looking into if this was an actual thing for dyslexic and dyspraxic people, and if so, how we could prove it and what we could do about it. So at that stage, Howard and I began developing some drawing workshops, which we ran at the RCA with groups of dyslexic and dyspraxic students, and we got fantastic feedback, which encouraged us to continue with our work. So in our book, you'll find some simple tips and strategies that can help you improve your drawings, which are taken in part from some of the drawing workshops we've done with students. And the workshops are based on some of the support strategies we use for teaching spelling and reading, and include simple steps and exercises around adjusting how you concentrate on looking at objects, and also the spaces around those objects, which we believe will improve your drawing considerably. So that's what it's about.
Because a lot of these people can really think and work in 3 dimensions very well. Because all these guys are, the students at the RCA, they're top of their game, but they just have trouble putting it into 2 dimensions.
Absolutely, yes. It's that translation of something that's in your head and how you externalize that 3-dimensional image, how you externalize it into something that's 2-dimensional that you can show a client or somebody who's going to buy it.
Wow. As a dyslexic, drawing and visualizing comes very naturally to me.
Yeah.
But I know, as we talked about previous, is that there are folks with dyslexia that using that medium or those tools is maybe not as intuitive. So I can't wait to read the book and see it. Any observation, obviously, is as a university and art, and that learning and showing them how to do 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional drawing. How does that help or affect or support the dyslexia mind?
Well, I think it's a matter of not being discriminated against in your profession because you can't do something that people expect you to do. I've interviewed students who've said, I've been taught drawing all my life. I did A-level art, I did a foundation course, I did a BA. I've always been taught how to draw, and I've just never quite got it. And I think there's something about the strategies that we use in how we teach dyslexic children reading and spelling, and we've translated those strategies, if you like, into the drawing studio. And they seem to be effective for students, at least that's what they've told us. So they're pleased with the improvement they see in their drawing. And if that can help them, you know, feel more professionally on an equal footing with their peers, then that's good.
Absolutely, absolutely, amazing. Is the book going to have an audio component to it when it comes out?
That's an interesting question. It should do, shouldn't it?
You know,
it's it's a very visual book, actually. It's very similar to the wonderful bigger picture book of Amazing Dyslexics, in that there's lots of space within the book for people to do their own drawings and make notes. So I'm not sure how it would work auditorily, but it's certainly worth. I shall certainly mention that to the publisher.
Yeah, well, we can always talk about, figure out different ways to do it, but I can't wait to see it, and it's going to be amazing. You know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys is, you know, what made you decide to help other dyslexic? What led you to expand your own focus with dyslexia on your own and then bring it to the dyslexic community? Marcia, what was your thing? What was the catalyst moment for you?
I think for me, I always wanted to work with young people, and I think probably some of that trauma was to be able to give back, to be able to help others to find their way, and as I said before, to find their voice and to understand where they're going in terms of their aspirations. So I started wanting to do being a nursery nurse, and my mum said to me, that can't be a career. You've got to, you know, you're not going to be able to, all you're going to do is be a manager. I mean, that was her perspective of it. I still don't see it like that. If you've got a passion, you're going to go for it, and if that's what feels right for you, you will never feel like you're working. So I did listen to my mum, but I still went down that route. So I went down into youth work, and through that I was able to fulfill some of my passion and realize I was good at inspiring others. And I think because of my own journey, I think I had that understanding, that patience, empathy, and I felt that was when it kind of clicked for me. And then while I was at university and I was doing an information science degree, I was still working with young people. So naturally I sort of ended up going in that way, rather going into the world of information science and librarianship, which I am a qualified librarian. I actually went down the route of working with young people, and I became a tutor, and that's when it really kick-started. And I was a tutor for access students retaking their GCSEs, and health and science students, and I was their tutor for all the pastoral care. And I knew from there that's where my heart was, and that's where I knew my purpose was, to be able to, and it just never felt like, I was said earlier, it never feels like you're working, because you're working on purpose. You're working with something that you love, and you're able to give back and do something from a place of fulfillment, if that makes sense. So I think it's through my youth work and then my journey to becoming a tutor working at FE college, it really kick-started what I was meant to be. And then I went into higher education and worked on widening participation, development work and outreach across the UK, which was amazing, traveling around the country and getting to see so many different colleges and young people. It really kick-started me becoming a careers advisor. So that journey was felt like it was written in the path to guide, but I just didn't know what it was until I became a careers advisor. And I was actually, a careers advisor told me to work in a shoe shop. That was what I was told at the end of my 16, and it didn't connect. She was saying that she feels long term I could work in a shoe shop, and I think I would be really good as a sales assistant. I'm really good at sales. I'm really good.
You're a people person.
I'm really good.
Yeah.
I had a Saturday job and I was brilliant. I was genuinely, if something didn't, I thought, I was really good. So I know I was good at that, but that didn't make sense to me. She's saying work in a shoe shop, and I'm saying I want to work with children. So it was it felt, when I became a careers advisor, I just thought, wow, I'm doing something. I remember this career, and I actually met her again, which is another story. But and she remembered me, but I don't know if she remembered the advice she gave me. I don't think you should give advice. You should help people to find their way, and you give them tools. And so anyway, so that's kind of where I sort of developed my passion to realize guidance and helping people to find their potential and reach their potential was really what I wanted to do. And as I said, I do think it's it's through my gift of dyslexia that I found it, if that makes sense. I feel
absolutely.
Yeah.
You're very magnetic as well. I mean, you're very magnetic for people. When we, Marcia kindly invited us to the Waltham Forest Dyslexia Association to give a talk, and everyone adores you there. I mean, you really are just such a fab, positive role model.
Thank you. It's not always easy. You know that living with dyslexia daily, you're going to have your ups and downs. As I said to you, I've had moments where you've had the self-doubt, you know, the imposter syndrome, thinking I'm standing here and I'm talking, but I'm in my voice I said, what are you?
Oh no!
Oh, we
Sorry.
lost her for a minute.
Lost you.
There she is.
You've got your
Well, you know, you know, what I love about Back to the Pencil is that it's an old technology that doesn't go offline for a minute, but she'll come back in just a second and we'll continue to hear about it.
So
well,
sorry.
there she is.
Here she is.
This is what you call being live.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So apologies for that. So I've lost my chain of thought, what I was actually saying, but with the WFDA, yes, I didn't mention that. I'm also a trustee of the WFDA. And when I was having a downtime, I wanted to help, you know, more. And what I haven't said, dyslexia definitely runs in my family because my mum's dyslexic and I'm dyslexic. That was really interesting. That's another topic, you know, having two dyslexics in the house. And then one of my children is dyslexic. So we're really dyslexic. The genetics is really there with the dyslexia, and it's an interesting journey on itself. So I was seeking something. So that's how the WFDA came about, and I'm a trustee. I do their lead on their social media. I'm going to be doing later on. I'm going to be doing a webinar talking about social media and how to help and support around social media. With you know, I gave a talk about education and demystifying. So I've really gone in there with dyslexia. I've really gone in there, and I feel that it's just really it's part of me. It's part of, you know, even if you paid me, it wouldn't feel like I'm working, kind of thing, which I know has been mentioned, but I'm doing it volunteering, and I feel that's an added extra to me to be able to give back and share my story. And I think when you share stories, if you can make a difference for one person, that's you've done something. You've left a mark to help somebody to find their way. Because dyslexia there's a lot of barriers within education, and I know we may talk about that a little bit later, and you know, the diversity and equality around that as well, and you know, social justice. So there's a whole range of things that I'm really key to, you know, to explore around cultural perspective as well. So yeah, WFDA, and then that's how I set up the BDA cultural perspective, by sort of going to the annual general meeting and saying, this does, you know, I'm here, but it's not representing the community, you know, what's happening. And then through that conversation, they said, we're going to have a cultural perspective and you're going to be it. And there it was, by speaking out. And I think I realized by speaking out and sharing your story and your voice, people, you know, what can they do? It's your truth. So what can they do with it? They're not, it's my experience.
Yeah.
I'm living it. I live it day to day. This is my experience as a Black woman. This is what's happening for me. These are the discriminations, the boundaries, you know. So I'm just really in awe of being able to have the opportunity to be able to, you know, support other people and have, you know, and keep learning as well. I think I'm continually learning and open to learn, and you know, I'm just grateful really to be at this point. And people keep saying I'm confident. I keep thinking I don't see that, but I guess I've pushed myself a lot to find my voice and be able to be where I am today. I don't know if that's really covering some of the things you're saying, because sometimes you say things and then you forget and you go on another point. So I hope I've covered what you're saying.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I love in the book how you express your dyslexia, which is interwoven with your culture and environment and class and education. Yeah. I think so many of us can relate to it, coming from so many different places around the world, wrestling with the challenges, as you said, with education or support and figuring it out. So it's so inspiring to hear your perspective and really creating an inclusion of all of us, you know, even though our dyslexia are different. And you said your truth is maybe slightly different than mine, but we are both in it together, and giving the voice to all of us is it's so moving. I mean, I'm so inspired by your work. So thank you. If people on the live chat would love to join some of your seminars and some of the things you're doing, is that open to the public? Is there a way we can send a link out so maybe they can come and learn more about your efforts?
Yeah, so through the WFDS, it's the Waltham Forest Dyslexia Association. So they can just search via their website, and there's an admin email, and I'm sure one of us will pick it up. And I'm on LinkedIn. I do a lot of LinkedIn. I realize how much post. I'm trying to create a blog, and I realized I had, within a certain amount of time, I've done 47 post on just my personal experience, and I thought I really do need to get a life. I mean, what's going on here? But it's great that I would never have done that, and I don't even think about the spelling mistakes. Sometimes I sit and you'll see I've edited it like 7 times, where you read it through, but I just put it out there. I'm not going to worry about spelling anymore. I can't. It's not just about spelling. It's more than that. And like you said, the cultural perspective, is something now that's more being spoken about since the sort of the incidents what's happened in America. But it's always been there. I've always looked at publications when I was growing up, and I never saw me. Representation imagery is so important, and that's part of who I am as a person. But it's also within the dyslexic community. We need to see that, because with our environment and all the things what has an impact on us, all part of it. It's all part of it, and so that's what makes us different. But it's also part of who I am, and that's really key that I see that as well. So that's why I speak as well, to represent that, because dyslexia should be colourful, so it should include everybody. It affects everybody in any country, but we don't always see that. It's quite the narrative's more a Eurocentric one, and we just really need to change that, whether it's through the arts, whether it's through our literature. So that's where I am with that. I think I'm all about collective, but I also have to talk about my journey and some of my culture that's made me who I am. So my mum was very strict, and I'm not saying everybody within the African Caribbean, where my parents are from Jamaica, but that helped my dyslexia by having order, structure, routine, those things. Housework was serious in my house. Those things really helped me to be organized and be on top of my game as well. So I'm thankful for those aspects of my culture that enabled me to be who I am. My rice and peas on a Saturday. I'm keeping it real here. These things have contributed to my, you talked about authentic or uniqueness, and it makes me who I am. Yeah. But I'm still dyslexic.
Yeah. Yes. We love that. We love that. I can relate to having the structure that allows us then to have our dyslexia, so we can see everything at the same time and have all these passion ideas, but then also have some physical processes and ways about the day that allows us to sort of regulate some of this immense passion and drive. So I can definitely relate to your story in that sense. And I think that's for young children and young adults to really learn how to have a relationship with your dyslexia and how to regulate it, and how to sort of play with it and understand how your mind works is so important to be able to kind of build on it and thrive with it. So totally can relate to that. Qona, tell us about what made you decide to sort of move from your work on your own dyslexia to sort of help others and their sort of dyslexia challenges and coming out with it.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this question, actually. It's an interesting question. And I think really what led me towards working with other people was a very strong sense of injustice. And I've got 2 examples. So many years ago, I was a senior lecturer on a product design BA, and I began noticing that many of what I considered to be the most talented students in terms of their design work weren't getting first-class degrees, which seemed very odd and unfair. And when I looked into this, I realized that their dissertation marks were aggregated with their studio mark, and that was pulling down the final mark. And at about that time, an inspirational woman called Jane Graves, who worked at Central St. Martin's, delivered a staff development session called Make Dyslexia Your Friend. And Jane explained that there were a huge number of dyslexic students studying in art and design, which we didn't know at the time, and that we needed to be doing something about helping them, particularly with any written work. And at the end of her talk, she challenged our dean to pay for one of us to be trained in this area. And I saw this as a fantastic opportunity to help this group of students. And so I volunteered, and that was what enabled me to get the position at the Royal College. And my second example is a more personal one and concerns my two daughters, one of whom is dyspraxic and the other dyslexic. And they were having a really tough time at school, but they were both, still are actually, very musical. Both of them singing, one played the flute, one plays the saxophone. And I felt very strongly that this ability to get recognition and acknowledgement for their performances from their peers and their teachers was absolutely crucial in preserving an element of self-esteem. And it occurred to me that had we not been in the very fortunate position of being able to afford private music lessons with, of course, carefully selected neurodiverse teachers, in my opinion, crucial, they would never have had the chance to shine and be known as being really good at whatever. And I realized how many neurodiverse children who don't come from a privileged background never get the opportunity to even know about, let alone engage in creative activities. So in 2008, I started my charity Creative Mentors Foundation, where highly talented neurodiverse postgraduate individuals go into state schools to work individually or with small groups of neurodiverse children and encourage them and help them to access the creative curriculums. So those are my two examples.
Oh, lovely.
Absolutely.
So, Qona, you were saying, so there's a statistic that 1 in 3 students are dyslexic at the RCA.
Yes, I think that's a national statistic for art and design students. Okay. And it's also very high in music. My colleague from the Royal College of Music, they have a lot of dyslexic students, dyspraxic students, interestingly. And I think in drama, it's also quite high. I mean, it's the whole sort of creative thing, isn't it? Probably dance as well. I don't know.
Yeah. I think maybe the dyslexic art student is probably a bit more creative.
As we've entered our previous
out there. As Sebastian Conran said, it's a bit of a stigma if you work in the design industries and you're not dyslexic.
Absolutely, quite right.
From a Conran.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you were talking about is about the lack of self-confidence. That's kind of one of the biggest hurdles, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. For really both of you, how do you guys sort of, in your different ways, guide and nurture individuals to sort of have that confidence and have overcome that hurdle and turning that maybe disability to a hyper ability? What comes to mind? Any thoughts around that?
I mean, I developed a 6-week personal development program for young people who are neurodivergent when I was a careers advisor. And that was when I really realized, some of my skills, but also how you could empower young people to be able to, to find their voices. I keep using that term, but that program was just really powerful. And it was at the time when that lady from Starbucks actually took the Starbucks to court and and won. And we had a discussion about that. I did a lot of things around mind mapping and looking at your strengths and goal setting and how you could use that to make your short, medium and long-term goals. And some of the young people hadn't done anything like that before. So it was taking smaller steps to be able to find and navigate yourself to what you want to do and what that looks like. I like mind mapping a lot. So putting something in the middle and then putting lots of arrows. It's a way I work and the way my brain works. And I sort of introduced that to some of the young people and they really found that useful. And I did some goal mapping. I found some links and some goal mapping and they put pictures in almost like a vision board, but a little bit different because you had to sort of maneuver it on the online. So that's some of the work I've done in the past. And I hope to continue that kind of journey of helping young people to make those steps to find their power. And even adults, I do work with adults. I know I keep focusing on young people. I do work with adults who are kind of traumatized still and still trying to find a career path from entry level 1 and 2, where they're stuck in a job that maybe they don't want to do. but they've got so much to offer. And the entrepreneur thing, we haven't even talked about that, but we're so good at kind of reinventing things in a different way. And I've seen that with so many of the young people and adults. They've got some great ideas, and it's trying to pull that out and saying, go for it, trust yourself, believe in yourself. But it's the work you have to do before to get that trust in themselves, because they've been hammered, or that, you know, been told for whatever reasons that they're stupid, or, they're broken in some way. And it's a lot of work that needs to be done to build themselves up, to find some self-belief in themselves. So that's kind of where I am with some of the things I want to do more of, because I feel I've been on that journey. I'm not 100, it's always going to be there, my dyslexia, but it's how I maneuver it and look at the strengths. We've got so many strengths, and there are, there is the confusion, the frustration when you want to do something, your brain's not just doing it today, or you go blank, you have fog, your brain goes foggy. We all have all of those things, but I know myself enough, like you said, to regulate myself, to find ways. So I just want to share that. I want to share how you can do those steps when it's just a little bit difficult. What can you do? What ways could you have, to sort of look at it in a different way? I'm into kind of positive mindfulness, maybe having affirmations, those kind of things are really important to my sort of, my kind of daily routine. So it's having those routines and structures maybe works for some people, but those are the things I'd like to introduce in the kind of work that I do, to continue to share with my career guidance background as well. So that's a little bit, I hope.
This is great. And absolutely, no, it's great. It's mind mapping is something that we've heard before in our previous salons as well, and it's a tool that I know we use with our work, not just to manage my dyslexia, because that's kind of the way I see, but actually to really find ways to solve big problems and to change different scenarios, or different products, or different markets or industries, because the gift of dyslexia is that we can solve problems in different ways, and we can see the path to them in very multidimensional way. And if we can map it and we can regulate it, then we start to see almost stop time or slow time, so we can see through it and see really unique opportunities how to do so. So both as children to learn the skill of it, but as adults and as professionals, I found it to be an amazing tool. So thank you for bringing that up. Very helpful.
Qona says the most brilliant example of a dyslexic person trying to get to the pub compared to a non-dyslexic person, and the journey they go on. Can you do a quick version of that, Qona, just to illustrate? It's brilliant.
Well, I made a little movie of it. Yes. So basically, what it was I went out on my bicycle, and I cycled a route, filming it the most direct way, and then I cycled the route again using all sorts of little paths that went off, and went down by the river, and I just sort of had a narration about the neurotypical brain who set off on their bike and went straight along the path that they've been told to go along, and ended up at the pub to meet their friend at the appointed time. Oh, I should have said that both the neurotypical and the neuroatypical brain were looking for jobs in the film production company. So anyway, so the neurotypical brain arrives at the pub at the right time, meets his friend. The neurodiverse brain, who meanders off the path and takes all these little distractions, looks at the river, sees a boat on the river, sees somebody must have fallen in, gets distracted by an aeroplane, suddenly realizes they're completely lost, but meets a stranger coming towards them who they ask the way of, and the stranger says, oh, I'm going to that pub, walk with me. By the way, I've got a film production company. So by the time the neurodiverse brain ends up at the pub to meet his friend, yes, he's 20 minutes late, but yes, he's got an interview for a job.
Yes, it's a brilliant example.
Yeah. I could relate to that. It's a really good story. I've done many things, crazy things like that, and you still get there though. You still get to your destination, but you've saved somebody's life, or you've done something else along the way, which has a meaning as well. And you were just meant to be there at that time. That's how I see it.
Yeah,
but I think
really
the film's better than the narrative, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that as well. You know, it's trying to control that linear path sometimes creates less results than just flowing with where your play and mind goes and being open, and surprises occur. And I think we hear it again and again. If we're trying to innovate or dance, or as we heard from James, do surgeries in our first episode, or change people's directions in life in order to give them that confidence and to give them the skill to be able to say, flow with it, dance with it, find your own way. And often we arrive with a lot more gifts than if we just try to stay on that linear path. So inspiring. You know, as we're talking about where this goes and what's the future of education looks like, if we were to say, what would a truly inclusive future of education look like to you guys? What would you share with us? What would be some of the sort of top takeaways that we can be inspired to change education for all? Marcia, you want to start?
Yeah, I would take away just having exams, what's testing your memory. Because I think I'm good at remembering things. It's a different kind of memory. So if I had to put in a performance or a song or a dance or present it once I've prepared with my key points, I think why can't we be assessed like that? Why does it have to be by memory? I think they're missing a trick there. Like we've talked about talent in different ways. We need to have different creative ways of engaging. Also, the structure is outdated, if I'm honest. I feel schools are outdated. And, you know, why can't we have an entrepreneur session? Why can't we have creative online assistive technology? You know, it just needs to be kind of revamped to help a young person find their gifts, whether they're dyslexic or not. It needs to be, if it's dyslexic friendly, you know, for neurodivergence or just on a whole, it's going to be friendly for everybody, because everyone's going to have a part of that, and you'll have your exams as well. But you know what I mean? So I think inclusion, integration, it's a really kind of funny balance. And at the moment, I don't think we've got the balance right. So I would be looking for something that's more nurturing, more getting to really know that child with a personal centered approach, a more holistic approach. And I just imagine music. I'm just all over the place. I've got so many at the moment as I'm talking. I can see so many images of this really cool school that's just in, you know, the child is at the center, and the same within colleges, having it more open to have, you know, why have we stopped all the creative arts? Why have we, you know, we need those, we need that balance of, you know, it can't be all serious and just targeted. So I just think it's got to be more nurturing. It's got to be the person's got to be at the center of that, and we have to have different ways of assessing. I think we've talked about, you know, like the way, you know, I know that I could have, you know, my dissertation got points down because of the way it was assessed. But if I was to talk it through, I know I'll probably have a better dissertation approach if I could do different things to it. So we just got to be thinking outside the box, and the way we assess and what's it based on. Intelligence, you know, I would say that I'm intelligent, but the intelligence by memory is different. I'm not going to be able to compete in that way, in a linear way. Do you see what I mean? So I think we just got to be open in the way, the different types of assessing and to test somebody. You know, we don't all have to go to university, but we've got lots of talents that we can put on the table in the labour market. It's just not being seen, and that's including the workplace.
Yay! You need to be a
Yes.
Can you have a Prime Minister?
Let's do this. I love it. I love it.
I think I've gone off again.
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry if I keep going off into something else. My brain
No, you're sharing so much insight and so much vision and so much, ways for us today, individually, all over the world, wrestling with this. What can we do individually to even move it? One child, one person, one community, and I think that goes a long way. So it's really inspiring, and I think it's really helpful for us out there to be able to sort of get your expertise and your guidance, so we can listen, and we can then from there start to see what can I do to create my own environment and be more open to inclusiveness and compassion and support, and really create that confidence, not only in the individual, but the family and the community. And I think that's the steps I hear you so clearly, March. Please, yeah. Yeah,
cultural awareness. It's got to filter down, you know, it's got to be embedded. I think we've spoken that before, and it's just not there. It's not there. We've got it in policy, but how it's not embedded in a way that, it just gives so many barriers. And I've seen children really struggling, and it just seems criminal. And we do need to change. It's just too many barriers to learning, and that's why we have the adjustments, the reasonable adjustments. But yeah, so I will leave it there, because I might go off on another point. And I'm really passionate about this, because I've been through it. We've been through this journey. We know what it's about, and there's some aspects, unless you can afford it, to have the extra tuitions, the extra kind of engagement, the opportunities, you're stuck there, and your mental health. And there's so many things I see that, are really, and if I can make a difference to one person, an adult, anybody, just to see, to find their passion, their joys, because that's where you'll get your confidence, your self-esteem as well, when you're doing something that works for you, and you're not having those struggles. Like, it's a lot of different things, but that's me done.
Wow. Thank you. Qona, what the truly inclusive future of education looks like from your perspective?
Oh wow.
It looks like a majestic mountain range with different paths leading up to the top of each mountain. Some paths are very direct and narrow and go straight up one side of the mountain. And if you follow this path, you get to the top very quickly and efficiently. Other paths meander around the back of the mountain, which could overlook the most beautiful valley with a marvelous lake that you might just go and dip your toe in. You could meet strangers in the valley who introduce you to new ideas. If you take the meandering paths, you'll have a different route to a different summit. But on reaching the peak, you'll have achieved your goal and fulfilled your potential, just as if you'd taken the direct path and fulfilled your potential that way. But the crucial element here is the teachers. And I am so passionate that we need to get every PGCE or teacher training program to have a mandatory model that introduces the idea of teaching all children in appropriate ways that allows them to access their curriculums. One size definitely doesn't fit all. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful. I wish I can see that gorgeous art piece, because it was a little hard to see that. So
yeah,
it was a way to... No, it was great. There was so much detail, and my dyslexic mind now just wants to go and sort of, hike around it and discover unknown sides of that mountain. And really, really beautiful. As we are at the top of the hour and we're sort of going to start wrapping up our salon, I want to leave our audience with some things that they can do, small, medium, big, individually at home for their community, that they can take away and really take the next steps toward this, brighter future that we're discussing. Any last sort of tips or guidance that we can add as we close our salon today?
Shall I start?
Yeah.
Of course.
I think if you've got dyslexic children, what's really, really important is to get them acknowledged, but not by you, because mums and dads always think their children are marvellous. So children don't hear that. It's just, oh yeah, you're saying I'm marvellous because I'm your mum. So you need to find something that you can encourage them to do, and they'll get recognition and acknowledgement from other people, their peers, their teachers. And I think that's, if you're going to do one single thing for your child, that's the most important thing you can do. Give them something to shine at.
And I think from the adult's point of view is finding that network or community, reaching out and sharing, feeling that if you're feeling fearful to tell anybody, just trust yourself to find a community or a network. If you use social media, go on LinkedIn. There are community groups out there that can, help and are doing some great work. So I just think that could be a good point to start with, looking out and see what's in your local community or on social media, because there's some great stuff out there and great support that, to just start, not healing, but dealing with some of the things that are happening for you. Because so that's what I would say. Really try to reach out to your local community, see what's out there for you to start to break that silence if that's what's happening for you.
Because you're not alone. You're in such good company, which is the point. Is you can fly, but I think was it Margaret Rook wrote in her book about it just being so important to have one person advocating for you.
Yeah.
And that could be a teacher, it can be a parent, and obviously everyone's experience is so different. But I think if the more open and the more people talk about it, then the less alone these kids are going to feel when they're sat there, nothing's sticking for them in the way they're being taught. So it's important.
And just no more stigma and that taboo. To remove some of that and just say this is it. And I think that's where I come from as well in terms of the representation, seeing me as a young black woman, but as a black woman, it saying that it's everybody. It's not just one person that it looks like. It's across the world. And I think that's really important for me as a black woman to be able to do that and have that voice to share. Obviously, like I've said, my experience is different, but that representation of somebody different sharing their story and saying it's real, it does happen, and this is my story is really important as well. So, and
you will get through. The future is bright.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and your wonderful book.
Yeah. I haven't got mine.
Children will help children everywhere. I think you need to do an international version.
Say that again.
Say that again.
You need to do an international version of it.
I love that.
We're working on it.
Because there's so many countries which don't acknowledge dyslexia. And I've been looking at the chat, and there's some people in the chat saying, that in their countries it's not acknowledged, it's not recognized. So they need one of these.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and be able to hear and read, and this book is so beautifully designed. There's so many different ways to take the information. It's a lot of pictures of these amazing dyslexics doing what they do best and thriving in their own ways, industries and spaces. So it's truly inspiring. Get the book and share it. And I think that, absolutely. For me in closing, and I think that, first of all, thank you so much, you guys. This was so moving and so, insightful. There's so many takeaway I can see from the chat. And personally, just to end on the note is find something that you love to do, because often we focus about what we can't do. And I think that the gift of dyslexia is that we can do so many things that we overlook because we're wrestling with the one or two or few things that are very challenging to us. And I know personally, when I found what I love to do, I channeled that, and I know you guys as well. I channeled that immense play and ideas and problem solving in a truly moving way for me. And when we are sitting in our truth, then we can definitely include our community and bring that passion to life. So this was amazing. Thank you so much, all of you guys, for being here. Kate and Kathy, thank you so much for writing and bringing us all together. Thank you to our guests. I hope you enjoy this episode of Dyslexic Design Thinking. We have a lot more great content coming, so make sure to like and subscribe. Dyslexic Design Thinking is produced by Gershoni Creative, created in partnership with amazing dyslexics.